Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast. And we have a huge episode today where we will be recapping some of the World Cup qualifying games that have taken place over the last week and a half, and then getting right into an NFL season preview. Of course, the season kicks off tonight when the Cowboys play the Buccaneers, as football is finally back. As always, I'm Labi, and I'm joined here by Jacob. Jacob, how you doing today?
It's an excellent day for football. It's a nice 16 degrees outside, sunny, and you couldn't ask for anything better.
Absolutely. So we will start first by talking about the World Cup qualifying games in soccer. So if you are here for the NFL season preview, there will be a timestamp below that you can just skip to if you want to get straight into the NFL season preview. But we're opening up with soccer. Of course, we've been talking a lot over the last couple of months about soccer. Obviously the Euros were taking place, and then we had the Gold Cup that we were talking about. And, we mentioned how the Gold Cup was a pretty solid preview for the World Cup qualifying that we were going to see, particularly in the CONCACAF region, which is North America. And, those games started over the last week and a half with each team playing their first three games of qualification. So a couple of the important two teams to focus on: Canada tying Honduras, tying the United States, and then beating El Salvador, and then the United States tying El Salvador, tying Canada, and then beating Honduras. So both teams with one win and two ties, which puts them on 5 points and has them second and third place in the standings. Of course, in the CONCACAF region, the top three teams automatically qualify for the World Cup. So sitting in second and third to start off the qualifying campaign is a pretty solid start. Obviously, Jacob, you were at the last game, Canada's win against El Salvador with me. I was at both of Canada's home games against Honduras and against El Salvador. So, what were your thoughts on being at the game in person, and then on Canada's start to the World Cup qualifying?
Well, it was probably the best soccer game I've ever been to. The atmosphere was incredible, the fans were wild, and honestly, you couldn't ask for anything better. You and I were keeping up last night with the Mexico, Panama, and obviously Panama, we all know, won that game against Mexico, which is shocking. But honestly, like, Canada getting those huge 3 points that is so needed was just absolutely like incredible, especially because Canada, this is probably the golden time for Canadian soccer. So honestly, to beat like that game, the 3-0 win, and just being able to not only experience it in person, but at the same time being able to witness Canadian soccer at maybe its finest since 1986, the last time they were in the World Cup. So I couldn't ask for a better game to go to, and I really hope that the soccer team can really get it figured out, especially with the international break coming up, and they're gonna have to take a trip to South America and to the Caribbean.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was overall a pretty successful start. So the thing about the CONCACAF region is, some of these away games are very difficult. Obviously, teams like Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama, Jamaica, El Salvador, you would typically, especially now with the team that Canada has and the team the United States have, you would expect that those games would be games that you expect your team to win. But playing away in these countries, in these stadiums, they're very hostile environments, and it's very tricky to consistently win away games in this region. It's something that we've seen, historically all the time. Because of the atmosphere and the hostile environment, it becomes very tricky. So typically, the benchmark that these top teams like to set for themselves is win your games at home and tie your games on the road. And typically that is enough to qualify for the World Cup. So if you look at the start that both teams have had, Canada win a home game against El Salvador, tie an away game against the United States, then they tie a home game against Honduras. But ultimately, given the fact that the tie away in the United States is a huge result for Canada, because not a lot of teams are going to go into the United States and come away with any sort of result. You would expect the United States as one of the top teams in the region to win the vast majority of their home games. And so Canada getting a tie against the United States is going to, in the long run, probably be very beneficial for them, because the teams that they're going to be competing with, the likes of Costa Rica, Jamaica, Panama, these are teams that are not likely to get a tie in the United States. And so that kind of compensates for them dropping points against Honduras, only getting the tie at home. It was kind of a shaky start, but they were able to turn it around with 2 strong games after a shaky start. And kind of the same thing with the United States, a shaky start in El Salvador. I mean, once again, tying your away games isn't the end of the world, but the United States did not play a good game against El Salvador, held to a 0-0 draw. They also didn't really play as well as they could have against Canada. I thought that the United States started really strong, but then once they went up 1-0, Canada kind of took the game over, and I really think that Canada could have honestly won that game, especially the last 20 minutes. They were the much better team. But then the United States really rebounded. It was a really great game that they played last night against Honduras. They fell behind 1-0 to Honduras and then came back in the second half and scored 4 second-half goals to win the game 4-1. And that's a really, that's a statement win for the United States away in Honduras to win 4-1. And they're probably going to look to build momentum, particularly because their next the next international break in October, their 3 games, they have 2 home games against Jamaica and Costa Rica, and an away game against Panama, and they're going to look to build on that momentum. I could see them winning all 3 of those games. Meanwhile, for Canada, as you mentioned, it does get very tricky for them in the next window. They have to go and play away in Mexico, and then they play away in Jamaica before coming back home to play Panama at BMO Field in Toronto. For any American viewers listening, the U.S. home games on October 7th, they play Jamaica in Austin, Texas, and their home game on the 13th against Costa Rica is in Columbus, as the U.S. like to kind of rotate where they play all over the country. But yeah, for Canada, a game against Mexico is going to be a really big test, because obviously Mexico away, Mexico does not lose at home very often. Like you said earlier, actually Mexico came back and tied Panama in that game 1-1, but that's still a huge shock for Mexico to just drop any points at all. The one advantage Canada has is Mexico have to play in front of an empty stadium. As I mentioned, I think a couple of podcast episodes ago, the sanctions that they have from their offensive chants, they have to play their first, I think it's 3 home games in front of an empty stadium. One of those games is this game against Canada. So maybe in front of an empty stadium with no fans, that will help Canada out a lot. Obviously, the other big thing about playing in Mexico is that the Estadio Azteca is in Mexico City, which is at a very significant altitude, which anyone who knows science knows when you play at a higher altitude, less oxygen, it's a really tough place to play because of that factor as well. So Canada is going to have to deal with that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a huge test for Canada, because the away game to Mexico is obviously going to be very tough. And then the away game against Jamaica is another big test, because Jamaica has really struggled out of the start. They lost their first home game 3-0 to Panama. And so it's certainly a winnable game, but as I said, these away games are really tough. Going into Kingston and coming out with a win is a lot easier. It's a lot easier said than done. So for them to have to pull that out, it's going to be a big test.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about Jamaica's struggles, and and unfortunately they haven't been the team that they were expected to be, per se, which is kind of unfortunate, because they were talking a lot of game beforehand, saying how good their team was and how excited they are to be part of this team and stuff like that. And then, they just have kind of been disappointing to say the least, to be honest with you. And for a Jamaican team that really needs to get it together, like it's going to be a huge test.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jamaica lost their first game to Mexico, which, once again, losing away in Mexico is no shame in that. But then they lose, like I said, 3-0 to Panama at home. They then tie Costa Rica away in Costa Rica. So maybe a slight rebound. A point away in Costa Rica is not the end of the world, but like I said, it doesn't get any easier for Jamaica. They play the United States away before playing Canada at home. Those are two very tough games, and then they have an away game in Honduras. So they only have 1 point from their first three games. I can easily see them losing in the United States and also losing in Honduras. Honduras is a very tough place to play. So that home game against Canada is a really huge statement game for them. They really cannot afford to lose that game.
Yeah,
And so that's why it's going to be a big test for Canada.
you're absolutely right. They can't afford to lose that, and if they lose that, uh, that just might be a huge blow to them. Not just
Yeah,
like
if
not just in
Jamaica or no, sorry.
yeah, not just in the standings, but like emotionally, that beating a team like say Canada had lost last night, I think emotionally they would have been like out of it. Like I don't think you can come back from, I don't want to say you can't come back because it is possible, but it's very hard to come back from a loss against a team where you should have won or you could have won or you should have done better.
No, absolutely. And look, it is 14 games. So, you don't want to be drawing too many conclusions from 3 games when you're 3 games into a 14 game qualification process. But, once again, there are 3 games being played in October. And so at the end of those October games, if Jamaica is sitting with 1 point earned from 6 games, you're almost halfway through the qualifying stage at that point. Like you said, like that's just a very, very difficult situation to overcome. But the struggles of some really competitive teams is going to play to Canada and the United States' favor. Once again, Canada and the United States both sitting on 5 points after 3 games. Costa Rica, Honduras, two teams that I thought were going to be challenging Canada and the United States for those qualification spots. They're sitting on 2 points. So already just 3 games in, the Canadians and the Americans building up a 3-point gap to start, which is a really strong foundational point to be going forward. For Costa Rica, Honduras, and Jamaica to be sitting with 0 wins from their first 3 games. Obviously, they'd want to have started much stronger than that. And
Yeah.
so for Canada and the United States to get a win under their belt, and try to use that confidence building going forward. If they come out of these October games still with a 3-4 point lead over the rest of these countries, then it really starts to, especially for Canada, a team that hasn't qualified like you mentioned since 1986, it starts to solidify that belief of no, we can actually do this. And as we mentioned coming into this qualification cycle, both of these teams do have a lot to play for. Obviously, Canada trying to qualify for the first time in a long time. The United States, this is a revenge tour for them after failing to qualify last World Cup. Both of these teams with tons of momentum on their side now, in addition to the sort of emotional aspect of why qualifying would be so important to them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to um, you know, the morale of it, because morale in soccer or in any sport is huge, honestly. Like being able to win when you should be losing, it's it's incredibly important. I don't think a lot of people pay attention to the morale sometimes, but had Canada lost that game last night, what would that have done to them? Like what would it have done to their spirit, to their heart, their game? Like would they have come back stronger in the next time, or would they have, like, been hurting too much from that to recover? So,
No, absolutely, especially because due to COVID, all these games are compressed. They played 3 games in September. There are 3 more games in October, 2 more games in November, 3 games in January, 3 games in March, and then it's done. And, normally we're used to these World Cup qualifying games being spread out over the space of 2-3 years, because normally they have 2-3 years in between World Cups to get this done. Obviously, you lose basically a year and a half due to COVID where you can't play any games, and now all of a sudden something that normally takes place over 3 years is getting taken place over 6-7 months. So the whole morale and emotional perspective is, that becomes even more important, because if you start to struggle, you only have a month before you're back at it again, instead of having a lot more time to sort of figure stuff out. It's a very rapid turnaround. And so as we wrap up the soccer talk, just once again for the Canadian and American listeners, October 7th, the United States play Jamaica in Austin, Texas. Canada is away to Mexico. Then on October 10th, Canada's away to Jamaica, the United States is away to Panama, and then on October 13th, the United States home to Costa Rica from Columbus, Ohio, and Canada home to Panama in Toronto, Ontario. And that is the next World Cup cycle of games taking place in October, and I will be at the home game, and we will be on the podcast at that time, previewing those games, and then doing a summary of what happens after that. But that basically wraps up the soccer talk, and it allows us to pivot into really the main topic right now, which is the NFL is back.
I'm so excited. There's so many teams this year that have so many expectations, so many new faces, so many new places, and honestly, I just can't wait for it to start tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight we have, as I mentioned off the top, the Cowboys play the Buccaneers in the NFL kickoff game tonight. A couple of things to note this season. We have one more game, so the teams are playing 17 games. There are 18 weeks of the NFL season, and the 3 wild card format that was introduced last season is back. So there will be 7 playoff teams per conference, the 4 division winners, and the 3 wild card teams. So I think the best thing to do is kind of just go division by division and kind of briefly talk about each team and who we think is going to win the division, who we think is going to be in the wild card hunt. And we will start with the AFC East. And I think this is a pretty straightforward division in terms of who is going to win. But then I think after that, there are a lot of real question marks here. So obviously this is the Buffalo Bills division to win, and they would expect to win it comfortably. But then you have a Dolphins team that, of course, won 10 games last year, but it wasn't enough to make the playoffs. The Patriots, who after really struggling last year, have basically completely redesigned that team, and obviously have a rookie quarterback this year in Mac Jones. And the Jets, who also have a rookie quarterback in Zach Wilson, who are trying to just, have something to look forward to after, I don't know the last time the Jets have had some anything positive to really talk about. Jacob, what are your thoughts on this division?
Well, you're absolutely right. This is the Bills division for the taking. My apologies. If the Bills don't lose, you can consider, if they don't win this division, it's considered a loss, arguably, of a season. Even if they go, like, the Bills are expected to do so much this season, and they're expected not only to win, but to win with flying colors. And honestly, if they don't win, I can see like a lot of, like, maybe not question marks, but a lot of like unsure and uncertainty in the playoffs. This is a division that the Bills should win. I think the Dolphins are a little overrated. I think Tua is a little. I'm not a huge fan of Tua. Obviously, if he plays good, he plays good, right? I don't know how much of a change this division is. I think that it'll be the Dolphins, and like you said, the Pats. Um, and you can't ever take away Bill Belichick. He designed Brady basically, and his system does work. So, to say that maybe Belichick might be able to turn Mac Jones into the next Brady, which is really kind of a very far from probably true statement, but it's possible. And to think that Belichick may have just sent the rebuild 5 years early is kind of crazy to think of, you know? Obviously, Belichick has his own issues, and the Pats obviously still have a lot of concerns regarding this team. But it's more than likely that they can be a playoff team in the next 5 years, which for a team that lost Tom Brady and was in a rebuild mode is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I think that it's more likely that the Patriots finish second in the division than it is that the Dolphins can say finish above the Bills. Um, I think that it is very possible that the Patriots could be, 500, slightly above 500, and try to stay in the wild card hunt into the end of the season. I don't think they'll have enough to make the playoffs. But I definitely do think that maybe people are sort of overrating the Dolphins a bit too much and kind of underrating the Patriots. I think that the gap between the Dolphins and the Patriots is very close to the point where I think it's honestly a toss-up between those teams to see who can finish runner-up in the division. But I have the Bills finishing first, the Dolphins second, just ahead of the Patriots in third, and the Jets are the Jets in fourth. I don't know if you agree or disagree with my predictions there.
I agree. I'd actually change the Pats. I'd probably put them ahead of the Dolphins just because um, again, I'm not a huge fan of Tua. So I would do that, but other than that, I'm pretty much on board with what you say there.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the AFC South. We have the Titans, who look strong as ever in that division. The Colts, who have a very good team, but they're also dealing with some significant injuries. There are question marks regarding whether Carson Wentz and whether Quentin Nelson will be available to start the season. And then, of course, you have the Jaguars as we start the Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence era down there in Duval County. And then the Houston Texans, who are there. Deshaun Watson will not be playing for a variety of reasons, some legal, some him demanding a trade. They're in that division. Jacob, what are your thoughts about those four teams?
Yeah, a lot of the issues surrounding Deshaun Watson is not good. Like legally is not he's not in a good spot right now. And I think that um obviously it's gonna catch up to him. He doesn't want to play this season, and he probably won't play this season. Um, so I don't know. Honestly, like we said, I don't think Jacksonville will do much. I think that the Tennessee Titans are gonna take that division, and I don't think it'll be close. I think that they're just too good. The Texans won't even touch the playoffs. They're the tech like you said, they exist. They literally just exist.
Yeah, I think the Texans honestly have a very real shot of going 0-17.
And honestly, I
Like
wouldn't be surprised or upset because
if it wasn't for them getting to play the Jaguars twice, and even
e-
then,
even then,
because
like Trevor Lawrence is like he I don't think he's overrated. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he just plays like look at Burrow. Like I just think he might get lit up.
no, absolutely. I mean, I think we're both on the same page where we don't think the Jaguars are going to do anything special, but they'll find a way to win like 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, something like that. Something we'll get maybe like a petty win every now and then.
Well, I mean, they're basically guaranteed 2 wins against the Texans, and then I think they can probably win a couple more, like here and there. I'm not sure what their schedule is looking like. I don't know if they get to play the Jets or get to play like the Bengals. I'm gonna just quickly look that up right now. But yeah, I definitely think the Jaguars have the potential. They open up against the Texans, so that could be a win. They play the Broncos. I think they're in with a shout there. I don't like. I could see them competing with the Cardinals, the Bengals. Um,
Well, if the
they could beat
Bengal
the Falcons.
if Burrow comes back and is healthy, then maybe not.
No, I mean they play the Jets. There are winnable games on this. Like I'm looking at their schedule and I see the potential for 5 or 6 wins. Even I'm not saying that they'll get that, but
Okay,
what I'm
okay.
saying is if I can potentially see 6 wins, there's no reason why they can't win 3 or 4.
No, absolutely. I totally understand. Um, they could, but I don't think they will. Who is their quarterback?
Who? Which team?
Texans.
Oh God, no, the Texans. I don't even know who their quarterback is. The who? That is a very good question.
I actually have no idea who the quarterback of that
The
team is.
Texans quarterback is going to be Tyrod Taylor.
Oh my.
Yep.
So those games that are winnable could potentially be won. Like you could see Tyrod pull out a few wins every here and then, but I think a lot
Yeah,
of that or
Jaguars win 4 games. The Texans win one, maybe. My real
maybe.
question is, well, you said that you think the Titans will win the division. I agree with you. What are your thoughts on the Colts? Do they have enough to sneak into a wild card spot?
Who's the quarterback of that team of the Colts?
It's Carson Wentz.
I don't know because I don't think Carson Wentz is the quarterback A he used to be or B is who he is. Like I don't think he's that good. Um, they they might be just because of how they might it might just be one of those cases of like the Patriots may win second in division just because of how bad the rest of the division is. It may be a case of that, which in that case, like I can see, I could see them maybe making second in the division. I don't know about making the playoffs, but for sure they can be second. Like I don't think that's an issue.
No, I think they'll be comfortably second ahead of the Jaguars and the Texans. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. We'll discuss the wild card teams when we get through all 4 divisions. The next division, which I think is obviously the one that has the most intrigue, and that's the AFC North, because I think everyone agrees that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to finish bottom in that division. But then between the Steelers, the Browns, and the Ravens, I mean, I think you could put any of those 3 teams in any order and be able to justify it. Between the Steelers, Browns, and Ravens, they'll all be competing to win the division. I think the expectation for all of those teams is to win the division, at the very least make the playoffs. There might be a very good team in the AFC North that does not make the playoffs this year. Interested, what are your thoughts on the Steelers, Browns, and Ravens, and where would you rank them 1, 2, 3 in that division?
I'd probably put the Browns first, and I've decided I'm not going to cheer for them, and not because I don't like them, but because I think Baker Mayfield's overrated. Um, I'm going to stick with the Bills this year, and I think that it's not even going to be close. Um, I think that the Steelers will not make the playoffs. Bold prediction. And I think that um, uh, I don't. Listen. It like you said, you could put it in any order, and you wouldn't be right, and you wouldn't be wrong. So, what do you like? Do you think that the Browns are better than the Steelers? Like that's how I look at it. Like, are the Browns better than the Steelers?
I really don't know, because on paper I would say yes, but then obviously the games aren't played on paper, and typically I would bet against the Browns just because historically it's like the Leafs, like, not to drag them back into this, but you see a phenomenal team on paper, but when the playoffs roll around, I'm going to bet against them just because that's what they always lose. The
Yeah.
Browns were kind of like that every year. It was, this could be the year, this could be the year, this could be the year, and then it never was. The thing was, though, is they finally put it together last year. They made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. So is this the new Browns? So when I judge the Browns now, can I judge them off of, well, they actually put it together last year, or was that kind of a one-off
Yeah.
situation and you go back to betting against them, which is why it's really questionable, because the Steelers are kind of the opposite, where the Steelers have always found a way to put it together. But last year they imploded down the stretch. I think they started 11-0 or 10-0.
Yeah, they were 11
And
and 0, and then they lost like 4 games in a row.
yeah, no, they were 11-0 and then finished 12-4 and then lost to the Browns in the playoffs. Got obliterated by the Browns in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure is what happened. And obviously Ben's back, but like, is Ben Roethlisberger the same quarterback that he once was? He's not. Their O line is honestly looks like a mess on paper. We'll see if it figures itself out. I mean, their defense is still elite, but I mean, the Ravens defense is also elite, and the Browns defense is also not that bad. So it's really tough in terms of how to judge things. I kind of agree with your bold take. My bold take was also going to be I think the Steelers missed the playoffs this year. I think the Browns win the division because I can't believe I'm saying this, but I trust them the most out of those three teams because the Ravens have some significant injuries to some of their offensive weapons, and so they're going to be missing a lot of really talented players. In fact, my initial prediction was that the Ravens missed the playoffs.
Wow.
And you know what? I'm going to commit to that. I'm actually going to change. I think the Browns win the division. I think the Ravens' injuries to their skill players is going to force Lamar Jackson to have to do too much himself. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I'm not saying Lamar Jackson isn't great because he is, but if you take all of his weapons away, is he still the same quarterback? I think that he's not a consistent. I don't think he's consistent enough of a pocket passer. And, obviously you still need to be able to throw the ball. You can't just be a running quarterback only. So I think the Steelers will do enough to sneak into the playoffs. I have Browns winning the division, Steelers finishing second and getting a wild card spot, and then the Ravens miss out.
That is
because
fair.
of their injuries. Of their injuries.
Okay, I can agree with that. At the same time, it is Lamar Jackson. It is Lamar Jackson, and we've seen what he can do when he's hot and he's not injured. So, you're right. That's a very That's a very interesting division, and Big Ben obviously isn't Big Ben anymore. He's more like Big Broke. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last division, which is one of these where we all know who's going to win the division. It's just, I think, wide open outside of that. In the AFC West, we have the Chiefs, obviously, going to win that division. But then three teams after who really are all in a very interesting spot. We have the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders. And I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are on the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders in behind the Chiefs, who are obviously going to win that division.
I think the Chargers have the best shot after that. I think the Broncos are still a few years out. And I don't think the Raiders are going to touch it. John Gruden is not a good coach. Derek Carr is not the quarterback he used to be. And the Chargers, I think, are on the up. You got what's his name in quarterback?
Justin Herbert.
Herbert. It's Herbert time, and I think he's shown a lot of promise, especially last year. And I don't think that was a fluke. For everyone saying that it was, I don't think so. I think the Broncos still need some time. Their quarterback, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Bridgewater.
Yeah, they've decided to name Teddy Bridgewater the starter over Drew Lock this year.
Which I think is the better choice, to be honest. I think that Bridgewater is the better quarterback, but I still think that they're not good enough. Von Miller is coming back, so maybe that's a huge help, obviously on the defensive side. But I don't know. I don't see it being enough, and I think that it'll be the Chiefs by a landslide, and then it'll be the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders.
Yeah. I think that I agree with you with the Raiders being bottom. I think, if anyone's been following their preseason, it's been an absolute mess. I think 3 players retired during preseason, and the team's also in some tax shit with the IRS.
Yeah.
I agree with you. John Gruden is not a good head coach for 2021. Maybe back in 2005, fair enough, and I think people are kind of underestimating the Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater is not an elite quarterback, but he's proven on multiple teams that he can do a good enough job, to get the job done, to pick up wins. And then I think people are underestimating, how elite this defense is, especially with Von Miller back. They still have Patrick Surtain. And Bridgewater has some weapons. You look at Jerry Jeudy. You look at Cortland Sutton. Melvin Gordon at running back being back is going to be huge for them. I think that this Broncos team is really well built, and so my one bold prediction is Ravens miss the playoffs. My other bold prediction is that I don't think the Chargers are. I think they take a slight step back. I believe in Justin Herbert. I think he's a great player, but the Chargers are just, the Chargers are like the Clippers, where there's all this talent, but they never do anything with it. So my bold call in this division is that the Broncos finish second in the division and sneak into the wild card.
And sneak into the
Uh,
wild card. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
ahead of the Chargers. I think that the Broncos are going to really surprise a lot of people this year. That's my bold pick.
That
So
is
for me, my division winners, I have the Bills, the Titans, the Browns, and the Chiefs. And then my 3 wildcard teams are the Steelers, Colts, and Broncos.
wow. But you know what? It's not that crazy. Like you're kind of right in the sense of the Broncos defense is one of the best in the league. I just don't know if Bridgewater is going to be able to do what he needs you to do, especially in a division where you got to play Kansas City a few times, you got to play Justin Herbert a few times, but I don't disagree with you. I think those are very, very reasonable choices, and honestly, I think I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm actually going to change my pick to the Broncos making it. Now that you think about it.
There you go. So do you also have those same? Because we agree on the division winners. Do you have those
The
3
same wild card?
teams?
Yeah, absolutely, I do.
Okay, so you've committed to Steelers over Ravens, or are you still Ravens over Steelers?
Um, it's tough. It's tough because on one hand, like I really hate the Steelers, like I really do. But on the other hand, like the Ravens, I think are the better team, and I don't want to say it's not close, but I don't think it's close.
There you go. So you have Bills, Titans, Browns, Chiefs winning the division, and then Colts, Ravens, Broncos as your 3 wild cards.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. Now moving on to the NFC, and we'll start with everyone's favorite division, the NFC East, that has the Washington football team, the New York Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Dallas Cowboys. Very interested to hear what you have to say. Obviously, I'm a Giants fan, so I'll go second. I'll let you take control of who you think is going to win this division and sort of what you think about these 4 teams.
Well, I don't think the Giants are going to do anything. I'm sorry. It's just. Could you repeat the teams for me, just because I kind of forgot.
Yeah, so we have the Washington football team, the
Team.
Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Giants.
Um, Eagles aren't doing jack. I don't think. Um, I don't know who their quarterback even is, to be honest with you.
Jalen Hurts.
Hurts. Oh my goodness. And
I mean, unless they're going to start Gardner Minshew because they traded for him too, but
I don't think they'll start Minshew. I don't think the Eagles are doing anything. I think the Cowboys will win this division, which is like super, super like crazy to think that the Cowboys might win. But there is Fitzmagic on the Washington football team, so there's always that. You never know. Never say never, right?
yeah, no, my prediction is I think people are sleeping on how good Washington is. I think they have an elite defense, and they almost who do they almost beat in the playoffs last year?
I can't remember, but they did almost beat someone in the playoffs.
Was it the Packers? They almost beat a really good team in the playoffs last year, and they did it with like a 4th string quarterback, and obviously Fitzpatrick isn't like a elite quarterback, but he's good enough to win some games, and the Washington football team defense is unbelievable. It was the Buccaneers, actually. They lost to the Tampa Bay Bucks in the wild card,
Right.
but only by 8, and they did so with a 4th string quarterback, pretty much. In on the team. This football team, I think people are really sleeping on them. I think that they are much better than people are giving them credit for. Obviously, Chase Young is elite, but like this defense, just they have guys all over the place. You look at Montez Sweat, you look at Jonathan Allen, you look at Landon Collins. Like they have a lot of really elite defenders. And I think that obviously this division is going to be weak. As much as I'm a Giants fan, I want to sit here and say we're going to be good. I think the Giants are going to finish bottom of the division this year. We suck. The Eagles aren't going to do much better. I think the Cowboys will be thereabouts, but the reason I don't think they'll win the division is because I think people are underestimating just how significant that Dak Prescott injury is. He's not going to be 100%. He's just not. And Zach Martin has COVID, so he's going to miss the start of the season. That's a huge loss. He's one of their best players on the offensive line.
And we talk about, COVID taking someone's body and doing what it does to a body, so he'll probably never be 100% for the season.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know how long it's going to take for him to recover, and like you mentioned, how long it's going to take for him to recover back to 100% full fitness. I think honestly Washington is going to win this division.
Wow. A little bit of Fitz magic, eh?
Absolutely, can't bet against him. Moving now to the NFC South, where we have the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and while I think that this division is wide open for them, I don't think we have to really do too much to kind of, argue that. The Saints, obviously, with Drew Brees retiring and them having to trim significant cap space, they're not the same team. Although what I will say is Jameis Winston, as the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, is going to have a much better season than people are going to give him credit for. I think he's way better of a quarterback than people give him credit. And I think the Saints will be okay. And I think then you have also the Panthers and the Falcons. I think the Falcons are they're just dead. They have so much talent on that roster, but I just don't believe in them. I really don't.
No, the Falcons have been dead for years. Ever since they blew that lead in, was it 2017?
Yeah.
They're not touching playoff anytime soon.
But the thing is they have a roster that screams playoffs.
But
they just always underperform.
Yeah, you and I have seen time after time after time again. They can perform. They can have the best team on paper, but like you said, it's not one on paper.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think
the Panthers and the Falcons won't do anything good this season. The Panthers are ruining McCaffrey, I think. And I wish they didn't because he's a great player. Arguably one of the best, and he's been there I think his whole career too, so he's loyal to that team. I just think that I don't think the Saints will win the division. I think it'll be the Bucs. I still think the Bucs are going to go back to the Super Bowl. I think Brady's not done, considering they have everyone from that roster last year that won this Super Bowl back. So that's important, kinda. But yeah, I don't think that. See, the Falcons to me, you're right. They should be having success. They should be playing well, but they're not, and they're ruining Matt Ryan. And that's all I'm going to say on them because I hate the Falcons.
Yeah. So are you ready for my bold prediction?
Uh-oh. Is this bold or stupid?
No, it's bold.
All right, let's hear it.
My bold prediction is that Sam Darnold plays a good comeback year with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And the Carolina Panthers start the season 7-3.
Whoa.
And make the playoffs as a wild card team.
That is very bold.
Here's their schedule. Week 1, Jets, win.
Oh, it should be, yeah.
Week 2, Saints. I think that's a toss-up.
Well, it depends on, is it in New Orleans or is it in, because they'll have fans back in the stands.
That's a good question. They play home.
Okay.
Week 1, home to the Jets. That's a win. Week 2, home to the Saints. I think that's a toss-up game. Week 3, away to Houston Texans. Win.
Mm-hmm.
Week 4, away to the Cowboys. I think that's a toss-up.
Yeah.
Week 5, home to the Eagles. Win. Week 6, home to the Vikings. Win. Week 7, away to the Giants. Win. Week 8, away to the Falcons, that's a toss-up. Week 9, home to the Patriots. I think they can win that. Week 10, away to the Cardinals. I think they can win that. The first game on the season where I look at that and say, no, they're the significant underdogs is when their 11th game of the season, when they play the Washington football team at home. And then even beyond that, the Dolphins, I think they'll lose. And then they play the Falcons again, winnable game. The Bills, I think they'll lose. 2 games against the Bucs, I think they'll lose both. But, I mean, I think that they can win both games against the Saints, both games against the Falcons. And if I look at the other teams that these guys play, I see 10 wins for the Panthers, and I think that's good enough for them to make the playoffs this year. That's my bold prediction. I think the Carolina Panthers I think Christian McCaffrey has 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yards, and I think that the Panthers make the playoffs.
You think he goes 1,000?
Yeah, he's their whole fucking offense.
When was the last time anyone did that? 1,000 rushing, 1,000 passing or catching?
To be honest, I don't know if it's ever been done. Let me Google that really quick while you break down my bold take on the Panthers.
It's bold, I won't lie. But, bold predictions are fun because it gives us something to kind of think about, what if the big factor obviously is, well, Sam Darnold. He has to play like he was expected to. And that's a problem.
No, that's absolutely the X factor. Yeah, a lot is riding on Darnold as the quarterback.
And that's the problem I have. The only problem I have with the take is I don't know if he's going to play the way he was expected to.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
I think that, yeah, he's a good quarterback. He was on a Jets team that was, well, the Jets. Enough said there. I just don't know if he's going to have the season that people expect him to have.
The real reason for this is because I was looking at the other teams, and, we'll talk about some of the other teams in some of these other divisions, but, particularly the NFC North, I don't trust the Vikings. I don't trust the Bears. I don't trust the 49ers. I don't trust the Cardinals. Yeah. So I honestly think there is an opportunity here for some team to kind of make that jump, and I think that it's possible the Panthers can do it. So only 3 players have ever had an 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving yard season. Yeah. Roger Craig, Marshall Faulk, and Christian McCaffrey did it in 2019. I think he'll do it again.
So he's already done it.
Yeah, he's already done it.
Wow. Okay. It's bold, don't get me wrong, but it's a good take. It's kind of a fun take, to be honest with you. It's kind of it's a thinker, it's what if? It's a big what if, and I kind of like what ifs, and I'm what ifing my decision. I'm like, maybe the Panthers may make it. And if the Panthers make it, that would kind of be sick. McCaffrey gets one last chance at getting a ring after Cam Newton kind of screwed it up a few years ago with that stupid jump back play off the fumble. People who were there, people who watched it know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad take at all.
Yeah, so just Christian McCaffrey's stats. In 2018, he rushed for 1,000 yards and had 867 receiving yards. 2019, 1,300 on the ground, 1,005 receiving yards. Obviously, last season got hurt, so he missed a vast majority of the season, only played 3 games. And honestly, the thing with the Carolina Panthers is people don't realize that they played the vast majority of last season without Christian McCaffrey. Like I say, he only played 3 games. And the other thing that people don't realize is they went 5-11 without him, which doesn't sound great. But and actually, if you exclude the 3 games that he actually played, without Christian McCaffrey, they went 4-9, which isn't great, but it's also not as bad as, when you lose basically your entire offense and you're still able to win some games. I think that it is very possible. And if you look at some of the losses that they had, 7-point loss to the Bears, 3-point loss to the Falcons, 2-point loss to the Chiefs, 1-point loss to the Vikings, 5-point loss to the Broncos. I think that a lot of those games can be turned around with the inclusion of Christian McCaffrey and just the development of one more year of some of these guys getting some playing time.
Yeah, those are
But
very
let's move
those are
on.
those are
Sorry.
winnable games. Holy crap! I didn't realize how close they were.
Yep. Moving on to the NFC North now, and I mean with Aaron Rodgers back, NFC North, with Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay, I think it's obviously the Packers division. The real question is do you have any faith in the Vikings, Lions, or Bears being able to do anything?
To answer your question, like honestly, no. Literally no. I don't think either of them will make the noise that they're expected to. And honestly, I think the Bears are overrated. Um, I don't know who is it still the same quarterback? I don't think so.
No, so they drafted Justin Fields, but they're starting Andy Dalton.
Interesting.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky is now the backup quarterback for the
For the
Bills.
Bills. That's right, I knew that. Interesting. Like, and I think Trubisky is a great player. I do think he's a great player. Um, and I think that, he just couldn't get anything done because, well, it's the Bears. They didn't really have much. Vikings, I believe, are not going to do very much either, um, which I'm not surprised by because, well, they don't really have who's their quarterback. I don't even know who their quarterback is.
They still have Kirk Cousins.
Oh, Cousins, right. Like that's the thing, especially with this off season, is there's been so many changes to rosters. Like I don't want to say it's kind of ridiculous, but there's been a lot of changes and a lot of teams like upgraded, downgraded, like some stayed the same, but I think that the Bears obviously didn't really do much to be like super proud of. I
Yeah,
just
I
don't.
think the Bears are going to struggle out of the gate. Then they'll finally give the football to Justin Fields as the starting quarterback. Like I say, week 4, week 5, after Dalton struggles to start the season.
Yeah.
And then I think that it'll take a while for Fields to kind of get up to NFL caliber. I don't think he's going to just come in and start, like rifling the ball everywhere. So I
Sure.
think I could see the Bears' first half of the season being real tough. And I think they'll maybe pick it up during the second half of the season. But obviously, at that point, it'll be too far for them to get out of the playoffs. For the Vikings, I mean, they basically have the identical roster when they went 5-11 last year, so there's no reason for me to expect them to do anything different. What I will say though is that Dalvin Cook's an absolute monster. He's going to be their entire team's offense, but I just don't trust their defense at all. The only thing the Lions had going for them was Matt Stafford. He's not there anymore. Jared Goff's going to get exposed for the mid quarterback that he like. Jared Goff is just such an average quarterback, and he's going to get exposed now that he's not playing in Sean McVay's Rams offense anymore. I really like Dan Campbell as their coach. I think he's made a really good impression, and I do wish nothing but success for him. But boy, it's going to be a tough season for Detroit. I see the Packers just absolutely just feasting on this division. Aaron Rodgers is mad. It's the closest thing to a last dance situation that we're going to see for a football team. Everyone knows that this is Rodgers' last run with Green Bay. And I think they're going to, at least in the regular season, really pounce on it. I think that the Packers will be really damn good this year in the regular season. They'll find a way to choke in the playoffs like usual, but
Yeah, and seeing another NFC Championship game lost. That's what I can see.
Yeah, as sometimes the universe repairs itself, and the Packers losing in the NFC Championship game always happens. Now, this is the next division is probably the most interesting to me. I think the AFC North, Steelers, Browns, and Ravens is a very interesting one. I think the NFC West is probably the most interesting division because you can make an argument for any one of these teams to win the division or any one of these teams to finish fourth. I think between the LA Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Arizona Cardinals, this was my toughest division to predict. At least that's my thoughts when I look at these 4 teams, because all these 4 teams do have a lot of really good stuff going for them, but also are lacking some things as well. So I'm very interested to see what your thoughts are on these four teams.
Well, I like the Rams. I like the way they play. I like, I like that Matt Stafford actually has a team to play with now. Um, I think that they'll do. I think they'll win the division. I don't think the Cardinals will win. I think, despite the J.J. Watt and there was one other Hopkins, was it him that they picked up?
Yeah, they
DeAndre
picked up
Hopkins.
Hopkins last year. Yeah, they
Yeah.
picked up Hopkins last year.
Um, like I think that they may have success, but I don't think Kyler Murray is a stellar quarterback. I'm sorry, it's just not true. The 49ers need to stay healthy. They have to stay healthy, or else they're going to be in big trouble. Um, but I don't know. Like other than that, I can see the division kind of playing itself out. I don't remember the last team you said. You said the Rams,
Seahawks.
Seahawks. Oh, Wilson. Yeah, I forgot about him. It depends. Like it really depends on how well he wants to play and how well his receivers want to, play. And there's always the concern of COVID. Like, what if a team gets stricken with COVID? Like, that's also another problem, and one that I'm sure every team's aware of. But like, what if it actually happens? Like, what if a team actually gets like stricken with COVID? Then what?
Well, especially because there's the whole thing now where if the result if it's the result of unvaccinated people, the
Yeah.
NFL you're just forfeiting the game. That's the new rules that the NFL has. If there's a COVID outbreak and it's the result of unvaccinated players on your team, the NFL is not going to reschedule games. They're just going to forfeit the game as a punishment for not being vaccinated, which leads to the other question mark of, which teams have players who are fully vaccinated, which teams have players who aren't, and that becomes a potential storyline as the season goes on as well.
I think there are only two NFL teams that are fully vaxxed. And I
Yeah, I think
think
that's right. I think I remember hearing
one of them
that.
is the Bucks. The other one is the Falcons. It's about the only positive thing I think the Falcons have done in recent years.
Yeah, pretty much. So what are your final rankings for the West Division?
Rams first, Seahawks second, 49ers third, and Cardinals last.
Wow, that's exactly how I have it. Yeah, I think the Rams. Honestly, I think Matthew Stafford's going to be close to MVP this year in that offense. Like, we're talking about a Sean McVay offense that made Jared Goff look like an elite quarterback, and then you have Matt Stafford who has shown in Detroit that he's an elite quarterback, and you give him this offense, he's going to be playing at an MVP level. And I don't know why there are people who are doubting that. Speaking of MVP level, Russell Wilson every year. The thing is, people always bet against the Seahawks, and then Russell Wilson drags his team kicking and screaming to, at worst, a wild card spot. So there's no reason why I should bet against him to do it again. I think I would be higher on the 49ers, but it looks like they're going to start Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think the 49ers are going to have a Bears-like season where their defense is elite and plays really well, but the offense, because they're starting the wrong quarterback, is going to struggle. I think the 49ers start the season around 500, and then they finally realize halfway through the season, oh, maybe Trey Lance should have been playing all along. I think they'll give the ball to him week 9, week 10 to close out the season, and by then it's not going to be enough for them to sort of compete for any kind of playoff spot. I think they'll be around 500. The Cardinals, I think the same. They'll be, I think, just below 500. I agree with you. I don't think Kyler Murray is, as good as people are making him out to be, so to speak. And I think the Cardinals they're just missing something. Obviously Hopkins is a phenomenal wide receiver. Murray has some talent. I'm certainly not trying to take anything away from that. I'm not acting like he's some kind of bum, but he's not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And, honestly, he's, far behind Matt Stafford and Russell Wilson in terms of ability. And, when your team has the third best quarterback in the division, and your team doesn't really have anything extraordinary to like make up for that, I think it's going to be really tough to compete in that division. And so that I completely agree with you. I have Rams, then the Seahawks, then the Niners, then the Cardinals. So with that, let's just run through your predictions. So your 4 division winners and then your 3 wildcard teams in the NFC. So I think you said Cowboys are going to win the East.
Cowboys will win the East. It'll be the Rams in the North.
Rams in the West. You have the Packers in the North.
Yep.
You have the Buccaneers in the South.
Bucks in the South.
And then who are your 3 wildcard teams?
I think I had the same ones as you, to be honest. I think that you and I both agreed on the wild card. So, I don't know if there needs to be much said there. I think we're both in agreement. So,
because I have a different division. I have a Washington football team winning the division.
Oh, right. Then I would assume that other than that, like you and I both basically had the same winners except that one. So, I would just change the Washington football team. I just put that in as a wild card team.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you then have the Washington football team as a wild card team. I have the Cowboys as a wild card team, so we just have those swapped around. I guess I convinced you on the Panthers being a wild card team.
You did, and I thought that, at first, again, I thought it was crazy, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense.
Yeah, and then I assume we both have the Seahawks then also as the final wild card team.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, and obviously not in that order. Like, I think the Panthers will be the third wildcard team. I think the Seahawks will be the first wildcard team if I really wanted to go in particular rankings. But there you go. And so just kind of to wrap up here, just a couple of just bold, very premature predictions in terms of if you had to pick today, who do you have as like a potential MVP? Who do you have as a potential like rookie of the year? And then who do you have in your way too early to predict Super Bowl?
I have in the Super Bowl. I have the Bills versus the Bucks. I would love to have the Bills win. And I also. So MVP, I would say, is Josh Allen. I think he's going to have a breakout. I mean, he's been having breakout seasons, but I think this is the year he finally wins it. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to really surprise people, or even Chase Young. One of those two guys, I think, are my potential rookie of the year.
So Chase Young is not a rookie.
I knew that. I'm just testing you. I'm just thinking, like, am I thinking of someone else? No, I don't know what I'm saying. I think Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to have I think he won't have obviously he's on Jacksonville. He won't have the greatest season, but I think he'll have a great season statistically, so that's why.
Yeah, no, I think it's with the amount of quarterbacks taken early, I think it's very obvious that Rookie of the Year is going to go to a quarterback just because of how many quarterbacks there are that were drafted. And so for me, I think we both agree Rookie of the Year is just going to be which rookie quarterback performs the best.
Yeah.
This might sound like my award predictions might sound a bit crazy at first. I have Matt Stafford winning MVP.
That's totally reasonable. I actually, you could argue that he deserves it. I think it will be a quarterback, though.
Yeah, I mean, MVP is always a quarterback.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Josh Allen's definitely possible. I mean, I was thinking of that. I mean, since you said Josh Allen, I'm going to say somebody different. Yeah, I think obviously Patrick Mahomes is a very obvious answer too, but I'm going to go with Matt Stafford for MVP. I think Rookie of the Year is going to be Mac Jones. I think he's going to be the best of the rookie quarterbacks. I think that he just has a better team around him in New England. Trevor Lawrence, I think long-term is going to be the better quarterback, but I just think Mac Jones is set up for more success this year to be Rookie of the Year. I think that if the 49ers started Trey Lance from week 1, I think he'd be Rookie of the Year, but you can't win Rookie of the Year if your team doesn't play you. Comeback player of the year, Sam Darnold. Book it right now. He's going to do well with the Panthers. And my Super Bowl prediction right now, yeah, it's so hard to pick a team in the NFC other than the Buccaneers.
It's literally like next to impossible unless like Seattle goes back to like.
Because like, as much as I really like the Washington football team, I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. The Cowboys, LOL next. The Panthers, I think that just them getting into the playoffs is going to be huge for them. I don't think they're actually going to do anything once they get there. The Packers always find a way to choke. The Seahawks, once again, Russell Wilson's good enough to get them into the playoffs. I don't think he's good enough to do anything once they get there. And then that just leaves the Rams. And like, I like the Rams, but I don't like the Rams that much. Like, I really do think that this is the Buccaneers' conference to lose, which it's ridiculous. I think that the Buccaneers have to be the pick in the NFC. The AFC is wide open, though. I really think that there are so many teams that you could pick here. I really do.
When you bring back the same 22-man roster that won you a Super Bowl last year, it's hard to argue against that.
Yeah, no, the same 22 starters, absolutely. Yeah, you can't really argue with that. Plus, like, I think we've learned now to never bet against Tom Brady ever. Ever. So yeah, on the AFC side, like, I don't want to agree with you and pick Bills and Bucks, but like on the AFC side, I don't trust the Browns enough to say that they're going to make the Super Bowl. Well, I think the Titans are going to easily win their division. I don't think they're Super Bowl capable. So I really do think it comes down to Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
And it's probably going to be a high-scoring game.
For me, it comes down to which of those teams I think is going to have the home field advantage. And now I'm trying to think, do I think the Chiefs or the Bills are going to have a better record this season to get home field advantage? I think that the Bills might have the best record in the AFC this year and be the 1 seed. I really do think that that could be possible. So as much as I want to be different from you, I'm going to agree. I'm going to say Bills and Bucks in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping the Bills win it. I would lose my mind. And that'd be really...
Historically, the Bills don't have a great record in Super Bowls. Just
you know what? It was one time, and...
It was one time 4 years in a row. You know, every team does it.
Yeah, you know, it happens to the best of them. It just happens to the best of them 4 times.
Yeah, so there you go. You heard it here first. And there are your NFL predictions. We hope you enjoy tonight's game, the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. And,
Labi, who do you have tonight? Who do you have tonight winning?
Oh, the Buccaneers are going to annihilate them.
I hope so. I kind of hope Dak gets humbled a little bit and doesn't get...
I really like Dak. Honestly, he's a really genuine human being. Like, I thought I was going to hate him because, you know, he's the starting quarterback of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I honestly wish nothing but the best for him, but I don't think he's going to be 100% because of I don't even know if he should, once again, I don't know the details about the situation, but there are people who know more than me, or who at least act like they know more than me, who are suggesting that he shouldn't even be playing because his leg isn't fully healthy yet. And then they're missing their best offensive lineman with COVID. And already I think that a fully healthy Cowboys team isn't going to beat the Bucs. So when you put those things into consideration. Also, where is the game? Are they in Tampa or are they in Dallas?
I think they're in Tampa.
You know, if they're in Tampa, that's even one more reason to bet against the Cowboys. I think the Bucs should easily win this.
I agree. I don't think that there's much of a chance for Dak Prescott.
Yeah, the game is in Tampa, so yeah, I think we all agree on that.
They'll probably they're gonna raise the banner tonight, and maybe they'll have like a ring ceremony as well.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say it makes a lot of sense why the Bucs would eat the first game, because they're obviously gonna do their Super Bowl celebrations and everything like that. And yeah, so with that, we thank you very much for listening to a brand new episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast. We'll be back next week where we'll probably break down week 1 in the NFL. And, you know, we do want to spend next week probably some more time talking about baseball. You know, obviously with the NFL season started, we wanted to devote a lot of time on that. But next week, you know, we'll probably talk some more baseball as the playoff hunt is really heating up across the league there as they continue the march into October, but that will be for next week. So for now, we thank you very much for listening to a brand new episode. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you enjoy the football this coming weekend, and we'll see you next week.